Then she walked out, beat grab her without dropping a single set, and pushed Elena Ostapenko, a former French Open champion, to the absolute edge. 6 points. That is all that separated Alexandra Eala from one of the greatest clay court upsets of the season. 6 points. She did not beg for a wild card. She did not wait for a favor. She earned her place in the Stuttgart main draw on pure, undeniable merit. And then the tennis gods, clearly in a dramatic mood, handed us the most poetically charged first-round draw of the entire 2026 clay season. Put the phone down. Volume all the way up. Airplane mode. Because what happened inside that draw ceremony at the Porsche Tennis Grand Prix is not just a scheduling decision. It is a cultural detonation. Screenwriters would throw this back. They would say it is too clean, too loaded, too impossibly perfect to be believable. But it is real. Monday, April 14th, Porsche Arena, Stuttgart, Germany. Indoor clay. Alexandra Eala versus Leylah Fernandez. The Philippines versus Canada. Filipino blood on both sides of the net. Left hand against left hand. A warrior forged at the Rafael Nadal Academy against the Filipino-Canadian prodigy who shook the entire tennis world at 18 years old by reaching the U.S. Open final. Two women whose roots stretch back to the same 7,000 island archipelago, separated by 21 ranking spots, 0 prior head-to-head meetings, and entirely different career journeys, about to collide on European red clay at one of the most prestigious indoor tournaments on the WTA calendar. Before you underestimate Leylah Fernandez for even one breath, stop yourself. Because that would be the most costly mistake you make all week. Fernandez is not just another name in the draw. She is a 5-time WTA champion. 5 titles. Let that register. Eala has 0. Fernandez has won Monterrey twice, Hong Kong, Washington, D.C., Osaka. She has been to places on this tour that Eala is still building the road to reach. In 2021, at just 18 years old, Leylah Fernandez walked into Flushing Meadows and dismantled Naomi Osaka, Angelique Kerber, Alina Svitolina, and Aryna Sabalenka in consecutive rounds before falling to Emma Raducanu in the final. That is not a resume. That is a war journal. That is the story of a player who has stood inside the biggest cauldron in tennis and answered every single question thrown at her. Career high ranking, world number 13. Grand Slam final in her sights. Currently sitting at 25th in the world, coached by her father Jorge, who built her game from the ground up on aggression, tactical variation, and an uncanny ability to rise when the stakes are at their absolute highest. And then there is this detail. The detail that transforms this match from a compelling draw result into something the tennis world has genuinely never witnessed before. Leylah Fernandez has Filipino blood. Her mother, Irene, carries the lineage that ties Fernandez directly to the same 115 million people who stand behind Alexandra Eala every single time she walks on court. 2 players with Filipino roots, facing each other on the WTA Tour for the first time in history. On indoor clay, in Germany, with a second-round date against 5th seed Jasmine Paolini waiting on the other side. The Eala army does not boo opponents. It does not disrespect rivals. But it does not waver. And on Monday, every drop of loyalty belongs to one player, Alexandra Eala. Now, let's get into the tactical architecture of this match, because this is where things become genuinely extraordinary. Both players are left-handed. In professional tennis, that is a rare species, roughly 10% of the entire tour. When 2 left-handers face each other, the geometry of the court flips completely upside down. Every weapon both players have spent years developing to unravel right-handed opponents gets neutralized the moment they step across from a fellow southpaw. The wide serve into the ad court that normally drags opponents off the baseline, it curves directly into Fernandez's forehand. The cross-court forehand that typically attacks a backhand, it feeds the opponent's strength instead. Every tactical blueprint, every pattern, every ingrained instinct has to be rebuilt in real time. This is a mirror match, a chess game where both sides are playing with the same colored pieces. And that mirror creates something fascinating. Because Fernandez, in so many ways, is a preview of what Eala could look like in 2 or 3 years. Fernandez is 23. Eala is 20. Fernandez has 5 titles. Eala has none. Fernandez has stood in a Grand Slam final. Eala has never moved past the first round of a major. The experience gap is real and undeniable. But the trajectory gap tells an entirely different story. Fernandez's 2026 season has been brutal. 4 wins and 9 losses heading into Stuttgart. That is not the form line of a player operating near her ceiling. That is the record of someone searching for the version of herself that once dismantled the world's best on the grandest stage of all. Knocked out early in Brisbane, Adelaide, the Australian Open, Abu Dhabi, Doha, Dubai, Indian Wells, Miami. The confidence that once carried her through 5 consecutive wins over top 10 opponents at Flushing Meadows is flickering. Not gone, but flickering. Meanwhile, Eala arrives carrying a 15-9 season record. A semi-final in Auckland. Quarterfinals in Abu Dhabi and Dubai. 4th round finishes at Indian Wells and Miami. A career high ranking of world number 29. Wins over Donna Vekic, Jasmine Paolini, and Diane Parry. And a 2-set loss to a former Grand Slam champion on clay decided by 6 total points. The momentum is Eala's. The form is Eala's. And the hunger, that raw, relentless, almost desperate hunger for a first WTA title, belongs entirely to Eala. In tennis, hunger is a weapon that talent alone cannot defend against forever. But here's the thing about Fernandez. Talent is precisely what makes her dangerous even at half capacity. Her forehand is a precision instrument capable of changing direction mid-swing. Her backhand produces angles that geometry can barely diagram. At 5'6", her footwork is so efficient that she covers ground like a player 4 inches taller, teleporting between shots, never out of position. And her competitive fire, the same fire that produced some of the most iconic reactions the sport has seen over the past decade, can reignite without warning. Fernandez does not need form. She needs a spark. One early break. One forehand kissing the baseline. One emotional moment from a crowd. And suddenly a 4-9 record evaporates, and a Grand Slam finalist reappears. That is exactly why Eala must bring the same approach she carried into the Ostapenko match in Linz. Not the result, the approach. The 88% first serve accuracy. The clinical conversion on break points. The tactical discipline that kept her within 6 points of a former French Open champion on clay. Bring that level to the Porsche Arena, and Fernandez's 2026 form will not hold under that pressure. But the second serve cannot go unchanged. That 0% second serve win rate against Ostapenko was the precise margin between victory and defeat. Fernandez is an aggressive returner with elite timing. A weak second ball will be punished with absolute ruthlessness, possibly more than Ostapenko delivered. The Nadal Academy has had nearly a week to address this. Spin rate, placement, disguise. Keeping the ball away from the center of the service box where Fernandez can load up and dictate. Even a marginal improvement on that second delivery shifts the entire tactical equation in Eala's favor. The surface adds one more dimension worth noting. Stuttgart's Porsche Arena plays on indoor clay, and indoor clay behaves differently from outdoor dirt. The bounce is more predictable. No wind, controlled lighting, marginally faster conditions. For Eala, who is still accumulating clay match experience, the indoor environment may actually work in her favor. The consistency eliminates variables. The controlled conditions help her time the ball. And the slightly faster surface suits her aggressive return game, a game that won 36.7% of return points across her entire 2026 season. Let's talk about what waits on the other side of this match, because this draw is absolutely drenched in narrative potential. Beat Fernandez, and Eala faces 5th seed Jasmine Paolini, the Italian, the 2024 French Open finalist, the same player Eala dismantled 6-1, 7-6 in Dubai earlier this year in one of the most dominant performances of her entire career. Get past Paolini, and the quarterfinal picture features Elena Rybakina or Diana Schneider. The projected semi-final opponent? Swiatek, who has just added Francisco Roig to her coaching staff. The former Nadal coach. The very coaching philosophy that shaped the academy where Eala trains every single day. This draw is not a bracket. It is a screenplay. And the opening scene unfolds Monday at the Porsche Arena, with a Porsche 911 Carrera S sitting courtside, waiting for whoever survives 5 rounds of the most competitive WTA 500 field of the season. The establishment wants to frame Monday as a mismatch. World number 25 versus number 46. 5 titles to 0. Grand Slam finalist against a player who has never cleared the first round of a major. Every prediction model, every algorithm, every bookmaker leans Fernandez. The rankings say she should win. The title count agrees. But paper does not play tennis. Paper cannot measure the trajectory of a player who has won 15 matches in 2026 against an opponent who has won 4. Paper cannot see the look in the eyes of a 20-year-old who came within 6 points of dethroning a Grand Slam champion on clay and then immediately entered another tournament rather than going home to rest. Paper cannot calculate what it means to train every day at the Rafael Nadal Academy, absorbing the mentality of the greatest competitor this sport has ever produced, learning to treat every match as a final, every point as a fight for survival. And paper absolutely cannot account for what happens when 115 million Filipinos lock into a live stream simultaneously and channel every ounce of collective energy toward one athlete standing on a clay court in Stuttgart, Germany. Fernandez knows pressure. She performed under the brightest lights in tennis at the 2021 US Open and nearly lifted that trophy at 18. But she has never faced pressure from the Eala army. She has never experienced what it means to have an entire nation willing her opponent forward on every single point. She has never walked onto a court knowing that the person across the net does not just carry a ranking. She carries a movement, and that movement does not sleep. It does not accept defeat as anything other than a temporary detour on the road to something historic. If Eala wins on Monday, the narrative does not just shift. It detonates. It explodes into 1,000 fragments and reassembles into something the establishment has been quietly dreading, the realization that she is not a surface-specific player. She is not a hard-court specialist hoping to survive on clay. She is a force of nature that adapts, evolves, and conquers regardless of the surface beneath her shoes. 2 left hands. 2 Filipino hearts. 1 court. 1 winner. And the Porsche Arena has absolutely no idea what is about to walk through its doors. Drop your prediction in the comments. Tell me how Eala solves the left versus left geometry. Tell me how she manages the second serve after Linz. Tell me if you believe Monday is the day the establishment finally stops being able to look away. The clay season is here. Stuttgart is the opening act. And Alex Eala is ready for her moment.